Over the last several days in the Ukraine war, several rather interesting events have taken place over Snake Island, and pretty much none of these have been covered by Western mainstream media with anything remotely resembling objectivity or fact-based reporting. So in this video, I mainly want to talk about two things. The first is the overall military importance of Snake Island, and the second is the debacle that the Ukrainian military faced when trying to retake this island from Russia on May 7th. First, a little bit of background information on Snake Island. It's basically this tiny island in the Black Sea that's about 30 kilometers away from the Ukrainian coast. And to give you some idea of exactly how tiny it is, the area of Snake Island is only 17 hectares or 0.17 square kilometers. So it is far too small for any significant military facilities or infrastructure to ever be placed on it. This island was captured by Russian forces in the first days of the war. And on the very first day of the war, on February 27th, the famous, or if you prefer, infamous phrase which Ukraine took up as its call to arms in this war was first sounded here. For those who don't know, the phrase that I'm talking about roughly translates from Russian to English as "Russian warship, go fuck yourself." This is what the Ukrainian garrison on Snake Island broadcasted to the Moskva cruiser on February 24th. By the way, this phrase was said by Ukrainian soldiers in Russian. And it spawned the myth of the stalwart defenders who fought to the death defending Snake Island from Russian forces, even though it was later revealed that those fighters had in fact surrendered to a man. But despite this fact, the phrase that was spawned on Snake Island still became and remained the call to arms for Ukraine in this war. And that is why control over Snake Island carries a lot of propaganda value. If the Ukrainian forces ever manage to secure this island, it will be a big morale booster for them. However, from a military perspective, as far as I can see in any case, Snake Island holds absolutely zero military value for either the Russians or the Ukrainians. The island is far, and I mean far too small to base any sorts of missiles, air defense systems, or radars on it. The fact that the island is so small and has no terrain cover of any kind means that any sort of air defense systems or radars based on this island are basically sitting ducks. As can be seen in this video, just a couple of planes doing a bombing run can destroy absolutely everything that is located on the island. Again, with no terrain cover, everything on the island is basically a sitting duck. A few decent-sized air-dropped bombs is all it takes to inflict significant shrapnel damage on everything that is located on the island. Not to mention the fact that long-range rocket artillery and even some forms of howitzers can reach Snake Island all the way from the Ukrainian coast. So placing any sorts of important assets on Snake Island is a big no-no for Russia, and it's also a big no-no for Ukraine because Russia can target Snake Island with long-range missiles or even from ship-based artillery. So that is the message that I want to reach people all over the internet who are saying that Snake Island is this incredibly strategically important island because Russian radars on Snake Island could cover most of Ukraine plus parts of Romania and other NATO countries, and that Russia can place missiles on the island, whereas Ukraine can place radars on the island to deny the entirety of the Black Sea to Russia. That is nonsense. Ukrainian radars on the Ukrainian coast can already cover much of the Black Sea, just as Russian radars in Crimea and in Kherson can cover much of Ukraine, as well as Moldova and parts of Romania, as well as many other NATO countries. Not to mention the fact that over-the-horizon radars, such as the new 29B6 container, can cover basically 90% of the European continent, reaching all the way out to the United Kingdom, while the radar itself is located in southern Russia. So a few much smaller and less powerful radar arrays on Snake Island would achieve absolutely nothing, would provide Russia with virtually no additional reconnaissance capabilities that it doesn't already have. And as far as the claims that control over Snake Island can help Russia either blockade Ukrainian forces in Odessa, prevent naval ships from reaching the port of Odessa, or even help to support an amphibious landing operation near Odessa, I think that it is safe to say that this is also untrue. One needs to only look at the map and see where Snake Island is located. Not only is the island located quite far from the city of Odessa, but it also doesn't lie anywhere near where one would expect ships traveling to and from the port of Odessa to pass. So in summary, Snake Island is a tiny island that is way too small to host any sort of significant military facilities, isn't located in any sort of strategically important location, except that howitzers from the Ukrainian mainland can fire and destroy targets on the island, and it doesn't have any sort of terrain cover. So, in my opinion, at least as far as I can see, Snake Island is basically a strategically useless death trap. At least, this is what I can see, and this is what several other people on the internet, other commentators, have pointed out. And if anybody thinks that I'm wrong, or if anybody has some other information, if somebody can point out to me what the military value of Snake Island is, I encourage you to please write a comment telling me why I'm wrong. But as far as I can see, the island only holds propaganda value for the Ukrainian government. And with this in mind, I now want to discuss the attempt that the Ukrainian military undertook yesterday on May 7th to recapture the island. Over the last 4 or 5 days, we've seen regular reports of some kind of fighting happening around Snake Island. We've heard reports of Ukrainian aircraft being shot down, drones being destroyed. We've seen video footage of Russian patrol boats being targeted and destroyed by Ukrainian Bayraktars. There was a report that a Russian short-range air defense system, Tor, was destroyed on Snake Island. And it seems that what all of this ultimately culminated in was a fairly large Ukrainian amphibious and air assault on Snake Island. According to the Russian Ministry of Defense, the Russian forces left the island in anticipation of an assault. So the island was basically used as bait. Ukraine then sent a number of air assets and at least one amphibious landing boat onto Snake Island. And the boat in question is the Stanislav. It is basically an armored boat that weighs about 50 tons and can carry a crew of about 28 people. In other words, it really is a tiny, tiny vessel. It is more of a motorboat than a frigate or a corvette. But at this point, Ukraine really doesn't have much else. Anyways, it is reported that these Ukrainian forces were essentially allowed to deploy onto the island when the Russian military struck. There was reportedly heavy fighting over the island, the end result of which was the destruction of the Ukrainian contingent that was sent to capture the island. It was ultimately reported that Ukraine lost 3 Mi-8 helicopters that were loaded with paratroopers. The amphibious landing boat, the Stanislav, was also lost, along with a Sukhoi 24 bomber, a Sukhoi 27 fighter jet, and 2 TB2 Bayraktar drones. According to the same Russian report, a small number of Ukrainian forces then retreated on rubber boats. However, later that night, 2 more Sukhoi 24 bombers, 1 Mi-24 helicopter, and 1 Bayraktar drone were also shot down near the island. And for what it's worth, it seems that Russian forces have also suffered more minor losses. Russia appears to have lost an Mi-8 helicopter which was used as a transport helicopter, as well as a few patrol boats that were either destroyed or damaged by Ukrainian drones. However, it appears that Ukraine has suffered far more serious casualties. The combined number of soldiers that were deployed to Snake Island, nearly all of which were apparently lost, numbers at least around 100. And some articles, which record the statements of Russian military experts, suggest that the loss in manpower of the Ukrainian forces in this operation, or if you prefer this military debacle, amount to about 200 men. And perhaps the latter claim might be a little bit of an exaggeration, but it is undeniable that the casualties, both in military equipment and in manpower, are quite significant. And I would bring everybody's attention to the fact that the personnel that were lost in this assault were paratroopers and Marines. These soldiers are typically better trained and better equipped than your average soldier within the Ukrainian military, and they are undoubtedly, by miles and miles, better trained, equipped, and overall more elite than your average territorial defense force unit, your average Ukrainian conscript, draftee, or other such military or paramilitary unit, which virtually all reports suggest that Ukraine is being forced to increasingly rely upon. So at the end of the day, these losses are pretty significant. And we should take a moment to appreciate the fact that the Ukrainian government and Ukrainian military command essentially sent all of these soldiers to die over an objective which seems to have zero military value. These men died for a failed propaganda attempt. A propaganda attempt to regain control over Snake Island on the eve of Russia's military parade and Victory Day celebration on May 9th. So, all in all, a large debacle, a massive debacle, I dare say, over something that never really mattered in the first place, except for cheap PR and internet points and bragging to Western governments about how Ukraine is totes winning the war. Now, this military debacle that has unfolded for Ukraine over Snake Island, do you hear any of it being reported in Western mainstream media? No, of course you don't. I encourage you to right now go and look up Snake Island in Google News. You will find reports about the Ukrainian military fighting over Snake Island, destroying Russian ships and Russian air defenses in the area. There was even an article that said that Snake Island is becoming a graveyard for the Russian Navy, or something along those lines. And there are absolutely zero articles, I mean zero English language articles about the military debacle that has unfolded on May 7th. So we are seeing more of the old stuff from mainstream media. Mainstream media will write a million articles about any sort of Russian losses, but will remain completely silent as 100 times that number of Ukrainian forces and equipment gets annihilated. All to maintain this charade and to make it look like the Ukrainian military is winning the war. But of course, this illusion cannot be maintained forever as the facts on the ground begin to increasingly contradict the narrative of mainstream media, and I really wonder what mainstream media is going to say when Ukraine's military is going to reach the point of collapse. Anyways, with all of that said, I thank you for watching this video. I hope that you enjoyed it. If you did, if you're watching this on YouTube, please be sure to leave a like since it always helps the algorithm. And please also be sure to check out my other channels on alternative platforms. The links in the video description will be to my Rumble channel, where I upload the same content, and also to my Telegram channel, where I occasionally also write small posts that allow me to give you quick updates without having to record entire videos. Both Telegram and Rumble are amazing free speech platforms that have no political censorship whatsoever, which is part of the reason why I am recommending them, but also another reason for why I am recommending Telegram is because Telegram has a lot of channels that provide regular updates as to the situation on the ground in Ukraine. And I dare say that since February 24th, Telegram has become the best place to get combat updates and updates on important news around the world. And although my channel is not one of these channels that provides regular news updates, it won't be difficult for you to find channels that do, especially since I sometimes forward various posts from them on my own channel. And if you are watching this video on Rumble, the links in the video description will be to my YouTube and Telegram channels respectively. So with all of that said, once again I thank you for watching this video and I wish you all a wonderful day.